Welcome to All Together Now on ABC News Now. I'm Jeff Morell in New York. We're focusing today on the exceptional efforts of one inspired high school teacher to make a big difference in her students' lives, and not just in her classroom. Susie Kay taught high school history in government to students in inner-city Washington and found a way to help them build better futures for themselves. She is the founder of the Hoop Dreams Scholarship Fund, which this year celebrates 10 years of existence and hundreds of successful graduates, one of whom we'll talk to later in the show. But first, we welcome Susie Kay, former teacher and the force behind Hoop Dreams. Susie, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having us, Jeff.
Now, I'm familiar with your work a little bit because I don't know if you remember this. Chris Wolfington, a good friend of mine, and when you guys were first getting off the ground, we threw a fundraiser for you.
Okay, I knew you sounded familiar.
Yeah, well,
that's why.
So I was there at the ground floor. But for our viewers' sake, tell us briefly what Hoop Dreams is all about. These are fundamentally they're basketball tournaments that raise money for scholarships, right?
Well, that's how it all got started. As you noted, Jeff, and might remember from the beginning, I taught for 13 years at H.D. Woodson High School, and very inspired by my students like Quisetta and thousands more, but very frustrated by not seeing enough of them be able to move forward with their lives in the way they truly deserve because of lack of resources, support systems, connections to all the things that you need to go to college and keep on moving. I originally put on in '96 what I intended to be a one-day 3-on-3 charity basketball tournament. I named it after the documentary Hoop Dreams, which is the story of two very similar inner-city kids from Chicago who didn't want to give up on their own dreams. But this was really about bringing together a community to support these young people right here in Washington, D.C. And even though it started in '96, we've evolved into a year-long organization that essentially has nothing to do with basketball. We kept the name to celebrate the genesis of the effort. And now we're a year-long effort that has connected hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of D.C. public high school students like Quisetta to local caring members of the business community through our year-long mentoring, internship, SAT prep, partnership programs, and the continuation of raising and awarding.
It's amazing, Susie, how multifaceted this organization now is. It has grown from a hoop tournament into an organization that really helps kids in all facets of their lives when they are in high school or even before, right? You're getting kids even earlier now, right?
Exactly. We're working with students their junior and senior years of high school with a number of partner schools in Washington, D.C.
And the key is not just in the classroom, but out of the classroom. You're trying to match up kids with successful members of the larger community and give them inspiration, guidance, tutelage, etc.
Exactly. I think you might remember sitting on my floor in some of our initial volunteer meetings where really that hasn't changed with Hoop Dreams. We're connecting our students to people like you, Jeff, and just now literally it's been nearly 1,000 people who have taken part in our college prep mentoring program with the 800 students that we've helped send to college, and that is the core of what we do, taking them through the whole college application, college prep process. Most of our students are the first in their family to go to college and come from a single parent household. Quisetta is the first in her family to go and now graduate from college, and it just takes so much as a community to support these young people who are literally growing up in the shadow of the nation's capital but don't often enjoy the resources and the access to the power that we think of, the influence and the affluence here in parts of the nation's capital.
We'll get to Quisetta in 1 second, but you mentioned it earlier. Hoop Dreams is named for that extremely successful documentary that had been released in 1994. They are not in any way connected, but let's take a look at how the film inspired you and your organization. This is a clip from Nightline.
Hoop Dreams followed the basketball hopes of two boys commuting to suburban St. Joe's from Chicago's tough inner city, where Isaiah Thomas had come from.
I want to, play in the NBA like anybody else would want to be.
Back then, William Gates's NBA dream seemed to have the scouts and coaches' seal of approval. While Arthur Agee Jr., well, everybody's allowed to dream. Both boys, William the Blue Chipper and Arthur the Charming Long Shot, were headed for basketball at St. Joe's for Coach Pingatore, just like Isaiah. Would lightning strike twice or 3 times? Not for William, whose injured knee twisted his basketball career, although he did get into Marquette, an excellent university. And no, not for Arthur, who had to leave St. Joseph's in his first year because his parents couldn't pay his tuition, and wound up heading for a low-rent basketball junior college as Hoop Dreams came to its end.
A look there at the documentary from which Hoop Dreams, the scholarship fund, takes its name, that from Nightline. You saw there in that clip a little bit about Arthur Agee, whom you worked with, Susie, and what's the role that he's had in this organization and inspiring you and your mentors?
Well, I think just like I said in that clip in Nightline, you know, what touched me so much about Arthur and seeing that movie, and the key word there was dreams. And even though for the 800 students that we've helped send to college, they're not basketball players. A few might play a little hoop on the side. These are just kids surviving, who refuse to give up, who come from tremendously difficult circumstances and literally just want a shot to move forward with their lives, to go on and get their education, because they know that is the ticket to not only survival but really thriving and having the lives that they deserve. So seeing Arthur's spirit, his tenacity, reminded me so much of my students and their own unique dreams, and just reminded me that I needed to reach out to the broader community and say, even though these might not be your sons and daughters, your neighbors, your brothers and sisters, we as a community and a country need to do a better job in believing in our young people, supporting them, particularly those who come from the toughest of circumstances.
So these are fundamentally good, bright kids who just are lacking the support systems that you and I were fortunate enough to grow up with. What you've been able to do to help these kids is really bridge that gap between their inner city upbringing and the huge corporations that exist, and even Congress that is in their backyards, and tried to ally these interests that really pass in the night in Washington. And were it not for you being the conduit between these people, they wouldn't have gotten together. And since they
that was well said. We might have to quote you on that.
But what's the impact of that? I mean, these athletes and politicians and other successful business people in Washington mentoring these inner city kids.
I think our mentors and the people that really get involved with us, for the most part, you know, in the best way, they're everyday, common people that we ask a whole lot from. They come from every nook and cranny of the business community. They might not be the CEOs or the big stars, but they're people who are stars in our eyes because they care so much. They're working hard in their own lives, and they are giving so much time, their hearts, their souls, their minds, to believe in a young person like Quisetta. And that was really my dream going into this, to just reach out there and say, everybody get on board. This is the best thing you could possibly believe in, and we're not doing our best as a country unless we really do that. There's such an amazing disconnect here in the nation's capital,
And Susie, they must be amazed. I know it's corny. You see, you often get out of something, even more than you're given to it. These people must be amazed at how much they gain from this experience of mentoring these kids. We've got a clip here which shows you some of the people who are involved in your program and who recently participated in a reception for the students in Washington. Let's take a listen now.
Thank you.
When you think of all of the different kinds of opportunities that they could have had, the times when their friends said, let's go on out and to play some baseball or go on out and go to a movie or do some other activities, they said, no, we're going to have to stay and we're going to have to do our work. And they have demonstrated this kind of resilience and dedication and kind of personal achievement and accomplishment.
What's happening here in Washington and what you are able to achieve ought to be happening all over the country in every community.
Thank you for being here. You're what America needs. We love you. I hope there is at least 5 United States senators in this room and a couple of presidents. Thank you and God bless.
Susie, you've clearly come a long way from me helping you out. You got a lot of heavy hitters behind this cause.
Well, that's, one night a year. And one thing, Jeff, we really still are the same organization. When you were involved, we're a very small,
the kids are still the focus,
community-based
no matter
organization.
Who's involved.
Exactly. So we put all of our energy here in Washington, D.C., dealing with national issues. And it's all we can do, but we always hope that other people around the country sort of create their own programs in their own cities.
Oh, that's a good one. Let's touch on that in 1 second. I think that's an interesting point of whether it's spawning off. But, of course, at the core of Hoop Dreams is the students. And as we return from this break, we'll have a chance to talk with one student who has gone on to great success because of Susie K and Hoop Dreams. Stay with us.
Hoop Dreams is an excellent organization. It helps students get prepare themselves for college, and it has helped me tremendously throughout the process. I'm looking at Boston College, Lafayette, Duke, Brown, and High Point University.
Welcome back to All Together Now. I'm Jeff Morell in New York. We've been talking with Susie Kay about the Hoop Dreams Scholarship Fund, which this year celebrates its 10th anniversary. And joining us now is Quisetta White, who recently graduated from college and is a Hoop Dreams scholar. Quisetta, congratulations to you, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So you graduated in 2002, just completed your bachelor's degree.
Yes,
how
sir.
differently might things have gone for you had Hoop Dreams not come into your life?
To be honest, I don't know how I would have gotten to that point where I would have actually been able to go to school. It was just really refreshing to have someone or just a group of people who cared so much that barely even knew me to just care so much and help me to get to a point where I could get the resources to attain my dreams and my goals in life. So,
and what was it in particular that you needed? I know they offer tutoring, they offer mentoring, they offer scholarship funds.
Mm-hmm.
You in particular, what was the one area that you needed help in more than others?
I was a part of the mentoring program, basically someone to help guide me through the application process and the essay part, the testing part, just things like that. My grandmother didn't actually finish and go to college and things like that, so it was kind of hard for her to help me through that application process because it had been a while since she'd been to school, period.
So without Hoop Dreams, you may not have gotten into the college of your choice, or you may not have gone to college, period?
Pretty much. I mean, it was one of those programs that just kept pushing and challenging me and motivating me to get to that point because I didn't have any savings. My family didn't have any savings. And I really, when I got to my 12th grade year, I was sitting there wondering, how are we going to pay for this? How are we going to do this? How do I take these tests? What's going on? It was just a big question mark.
But see, that's the key. I mean, here you are. You're going on now to get your master's degree. I mean, but Susie, she would never have been in this spot. A lot of programs, I think, mentor kids, tutor kids. You go a step further, and you help those kids come up with the funds they need to actually go to the schools they ultimately get into. It would be a tragic story if all they did was get into these schools and couldn't then afford to go to them.
And couldn't pay for it.
That's exactly right.
Exactly.
And I think Quisetta is a classic example of so many of our students that because of the years I spent at HD Woodson, I think sometimes as a country we'd like to hope, well, you've got these students who come from very challenging circumstances, they've worked very hard, there must be this pot of gold of funding waiting for them, and it's a myth, and it's a bad myth.
Exactly.
And how much money are we talking about now that you're providing in scholarships?
Well, the majority of our funding, Jeff, goes to run our programs, our relationship building programs, our college support programs in conjunction with the scholarships. So the scholarships, we have to raise about $1.5 million a year, $1.5 million a year from scratch as a community-based organization, and a few $100,000 of that goes to scholarships and renewals, and the vast majority goes to keep all of our support programs going so we can then leverage other resources, other support systems. There's no period at the end of the sentence, and that's how we really try to keep working with our students. Even when they graduate from college, they come back to us
to help out. Well, that's the interesting. Are you seeing a generational impact of this program? Or, for example, Quisetta's younger brother or sister, I don't even know if you have one, or the younger siblings of students who have come through your program benefited by seeing their older siblings become such successes as a result of it?
Oh, yes. Like, I would definitely recommend it to anybody. I mean, it's not even just about, like, the mentoring and the SAT prep help and just the money, period. It was more so that they cared. And even when I was in college, I would get, like, calls throughout the semester, like, hey, Quisetta, how are you doing? Or do you need any help? Like, are there any classes that are giving you any trouble? We're trying to figure out what we can do to make sure that you get through this semester really well, and just checking up and letting me know that they care. Other foundations or corporations and stuff, they just give you the money and that's it. You don't hear from them or anything like that.
So
and even afterwards,
you're stuck with Hoop Dreams whether you like it or not. Susie's gonna.
They're a real blessing. They're a real blessing.
Let me ask you one last thing, Susie. If we can widen out so we can see Susie here as well. You no doubt have your hands full and are doing a terrific job in Washington. But this is, as I think Senator Kerry mentioned there, a model program that should be taking place around the country. Is this now being spawned across the country? Are we seeing Hoop Dreams in L.A., in Chicago, wherever?
We personally, this community-based organization can't do anything more than what we're doing.
You
I
got
think
your hands full.
The key, what Quisetta said, the caring part, the really staying in touch with the students, the families. Quisetta works at PNC Bank now, so connecting them back to the business community once they come back here. With our resources, this is all we can do, but I think there have been efforts inspired out there that have met us, know about Hoop Dreams, and have started their own efforts. This is just the most that we can do with our resources, and it takes everything to keep this going. Never can take for granted to keep an effort like this going, and we wouldn't have ever got this far if it wasn't for people like you, Jeff, and the people that have supported us along the way here in Washington.
You are a dynamo, I know, in Washington, 24/7, 365.
24/7.
You work for these guys, and it's very commendable. I want to thank you, Susie Kay and Quisetta, for joining us. It's been a privilege.
Thank you.
Good luck to you both.
Thank you very much.
You bet. That's all the time we have for today on All Together Now. We very much appreciate you watching. And, of course, you can check out more information about Hoop Dreams by going to hoopdreams.org. Thanks for watching.